So I've indicated that I'm available at 4 p.m. next week, and board members want to inform me of certain days that they would prefer. We certainly can convey that on schedule.
Any day.
Next week, I'll tell you right now. Next week is the week of the
27th.
27th. Any day but Wednesday looks good for me. At 4 o'clock. So, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Get back to us.
Absolutely.
That it? Steve?
Just, one other thing I was gonna ask about. Since the GIC, I had that in my list of things too. So, and there's one other thing that slipped my mind.
One other.
We'll give you a turn as
I
he
know, yeah.
comes back. Michael?
Just that, the firefighters' open house was yesterday. Everyone had a good time, it seemed. There's a couple questions about the little tiller truck, the fire truck that all the kids are riding on. It was not funded with taxpayer money. It was built by a couple of the firefighters, John Burt, Tom Harris, my uncle, Mike Tanyan, and a couple other guys helped. It's theirs. They built it themselves. They just thought it would be fun for the kids to have it there. I got a couple of questions about it, and people didn't seem too happy that we used money on it, but we didn't. They built it themselves. That's all I really have.
Are we I thought we were still going through the administrator's report.
No, the administrator's done.
I just have one issue regarding that. I know this board has talked about hiring freezes. Did we ever take a vote on that?
To my knowledge, no.
No.
Think
Joe
we
would
prob-
ask that that be put on the agenda.
I just think, in relation to a higher rate, I mean, common sense would dictate that you're not gonna be putting new staff on, and, you know, we're so short in some of these departments, you know, whether it be, through someone retiring or illness or something like that, we're going to have to backfill a little bit in some instances, so I think we've given to me, I think we've given the administration a pretty strong indication as to how we'd like to see it proceed, but obviously from an operational standpoint, you have to get the work done. So if it's hiring a temp for part-time, full-time or something like that, I think we still have to exercise that kind of discretion. You know. And I think we've got a couple situations being presented to us right now, staffing-wise. We do. That we're gonna have to address somehow or another, with the vital functions being performed now by employees, that finding it necessary to take some time to address some other more pressing issues. I think we're gonna have to be a little bit flexible in allowing the administration to meet the operational needs. But I don't disagree as far as hiring on that board.
Well, I think the board should have weigh in, and give an opinion. Based, I think the board should have the ability to weigh in and give an opinion as to each particular hire. Give an opinion as whether or not that particular position is essential, necessary, and needs to be filled, given the current economic financial condition that we're.
I don't disagree that the administrator should inform the board to any situation that may present itself and ask our opinion. How it's behaving.
Hey, if you want to put something on the agenda for next meeting, it's okay.
All right.
Do you?
I do.
Make a note of that, Greg. Anything else?
I do. It's old and new business. Two things I'd like to comment on. Last week, most of you may know that the Young Americans, a performing arts group, came into North Reading, invited in and accepted by the school department, school committee, and the staff. My son actually had an opportunity to participate along with over 250 other students in our community from grade 4 to grade 12. If anyone had the opportunity to be in the high school gymnasium 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday evening, there was more excitement and electricity in that building. Really made me feel proud to be a resident of North Reading and a parent of 2 students in North Reading. I'd just like to send out my thanks to the school administration, school committee, and the staff that organized that, and particularly the students in this community that really performed exceptionally well. Other than that, I also comment on secondary school building committee has been reactivated. Once I get sworn in, I'll be the liaison from this board. The current process is this. The Mass School Building Authority has suggested that any municipality, school department interested in rehabbing or building a new facility submit only one statement of interest. The secondary school building committee voted unanimously to proceed forward on a statement of interest for a rehab of the high school. They selected the high school over the middle school at their meeting that was held on October 7th. Just to point out, a statement of interest does not commit any funds from the town to move forward with any project. It just allows North Reading to get into the pipeline when and if a project gets approved by the state and if there are any funds by the state. In terms of time frame, the school department must submit a statement of interest by November 16th for the Mass School Building Authority. And so secondary school building committee will be looking for this board to give approval of their statement of interest at our next meeting on November the 3rd. That's all I have.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, I've been meeting with the chairs or designees of the towns of Andover, North Andover, Tewksbury, Reading, and Wilmington. In preparation for a meeting that's scheduled at the State House with Secretary Kerwin this is going to be at November 6th at 10 o'clock. We have an appointment there, and the idea was for the towns to see if we can come up with 2 or 3 ideas that we could present to the Secretary and see if we can get some state support for some initiative that wouldn't necessarily cost the state a lot of money, but would be, mutually benefit the communities that are making the presentation. So we've been working on that. We're meeting tomorrow night, Wednesday night, to kind of firm up what it is we're doing, and I'll present that to the board for the meeting. Other than that, I think the Energy Committee had a meeting scheduled this past week, last week.
Last week.
Do you know if anything came out of that?
No, I wasn't able to attend due to.
Okay. I'll have to call. I'll catch up with John Welch then and find out.
I happened to stop in the town hall today, and they were actually counting light fixtures and doing somewhat of an audit.
They sure were.
Yeah. So.
I bring it up because I had received something in the mail. Oh, here it is. Looks like Mass Municipal is, and Constellation New Energy has got together to form Mune Energy. And there's, now I don't know whether, because we have Reading Light, there is absolutely nothing we can gain by this. That's a question I have. I don't know the answer to. But they're meeting, there's events to learn about managing electricity costs through energy efficiency programs. There's one scheduled for Thursday, November 13th at the Town of Rentham Public Safety Building. There's one scheduled Tuesday, November 18th in Littleton Town Hall. And then Wednesday, November 19th at the Lee Town Hall. anyone's interested. Maybe you wanna pass this off to
Sure.
the
Pass it off to John
Energy
Welsh.
Committee?
He does.
And then I received in the mail, the chairman gets a lot of stuff, and sometimes I forget to mention it, but there's, please join us to celebrate the success of the parade at our after-party Saturday, October 18th, 4:30 to 7, Northbridge Clubhouse, 45 Northbridge Drive. And this is Century 21, and there's some tickets for the Parade of Homes, if anyone's interested in.
That was for 2 days ago.
What? That, okay, oh, great. I didn't even look at the date. You're right, sorry about that. Seems like we get things late, or they sit around, and we
They
get
really
packets
didn't, they really didn't
everywhere.
want you there.
They didn't want us there, okay. All right, sorry you brought it up, that's all I have. I'll entertain a motion.
I just have one
Oh,
more thing. It was
sorry.
just in relation to the project at Mount Vernon and Haverhill Street.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, that was in conjunction with the 40B project that was put in on Mount Vernon Street. The work has pretty much been completed. To be honest with you, it is not and has not met the expectations of the neighborhood. However, speaking with Mr. Hanlon, and again, town engineer who did work with the developer in relation to the engineering of the project, they brought it down close to a foot to a foot and a half. So it's a definite improvement for visibility, sight lines and visibility. The biggest issue was, of course, heading south on Haverhill Street and taking a left into Mount Vernon. You couldn't see any vehicle coming north on Haverhill Street. And at least now you can see the roofs of the cars a little bit better than not at all. So it hasn't addressed the issue totally. It's an issue which has been close to 50 years in discussion, and finally we got the top of the hill chopped off. It didn't come down as much as we would have liked or anticipated or expected, but the reality of the situation was if they brought it down anymore, we would have been into the infrastructure under the roads, which is drainage, piping, and we also would have had major problems as far as constructing retaining walls and driveways for abutters would have been impacted more severely. So anyway, we got the best that we could out of the deal in relation to that particular intersection. So there's an improvement. It's not the total improvement that we were looking for, but something's better than nothing, and I think it is better. And again, I actually traveled it several times this past week just to
At our last meeting, you also mentioned an issue associated with the Walmart.
with the
not Walmart.
Walgreens.
Walgreens.
That has not been, I noticed that they're open and they appear to be occupied and operating right now. That has not been resolved to the satisfaction of the abutters across the street, and I anticipate, once the lights have been on here now, and I noticed them, that we're gonna be hearing something about the illumination of the lighting and the impact on the neighborhood there also. So, while the developers did do some additional screening in the way of plantings with some arborvitaes, it didn't meet the expectations, and we're still in consultation with the CPC. But it appears as though they're operating. So our leverage.
We're operating, I
So
went by there
so our
today.
leverage is limited.
Mhm.
So it's unfortunate that I don't believe that the impact on the neighbors was addressed appropriately. And
What's the
on-
recourse?
Well, again, I was given a set of plans that didn't show or require an earthen berm like they have in front of St. Teresa's Church, but there was minutes and meetings that discussed it. It was supposed to be there. The plans that were approved, that I saw, the approved plans did not include
Who signed off on the plans?
the planning commission. Yeah. So I don't know where it got lost, nor does the two abutters that are most directly impacted, they don't know where it got lost either, because one of them, Mr. Tone, has been attending virtually all of the meetings all the way through. And again, they just turned the lights on in the parking lot the last couple of nights, and I tell you, I came through there the other night, and it's shining right in these people's yards, so I don't know if they're gonna have to do some additional screening of the lights, but I don't expect we've heard the last of it at this point, but I don't know what the recourse is at this point. But
Anything else?
that's it, thank you.
Michael?
Mr. Chairman, I move to enter into executive session for the purposes of litigation